Hi, everybody. I'm Paul Wilkie,
And I'm Janie Genosis.
and you're watching The Uptake. We're going to tell you all kinds of stuff about PR and the intricacies and what makes it fun, challenging, exciting, frustrating, and all the above. You and Janie?
I am doing good, Paul. Very good. How about you?
I'm doing good. So, what should we talk about today?
I heard you have a little anecdote about AI and how it relates to PR. And so, why don't you share that?
Yeah. So, I figured no one else is talking about AI, so why don't we just talk about AI today? It's a topic no one's covering. So, we've probably had about a year to sort of gather our thoughts, kick the tires of AI we have accessible to us as a resource, and seeing what companies are doing. We've even had a couple of AI clients over the last couple of years. Some claim to be AI empowered or empower AI, and some do, and some actually don't. We're in the middle of a everyone's an AI company movement, and the reality is that not every one of those are an AI company. So anyway, like you said, I'm going to start with a little story, and it's got nothing to do with AI, but you'll see where I'm going. So every weekend I play softball. I have a great time. It's a great league. It's great to get out in the fresh air. Um, and when before we started, I went out. I bought the best glove. I got the right gear. I bought cleats that were optimal for my size, weight, and speed or lack thereof. And I bought a bat that was balanced based on how I swing. And I'm the worst person on the team. I know it. I embrace it. I accept it. Nothing spent money on makes me noticeably better. Maybe a little bit better, but it's these are all tools, and when the best tools are given to a professional or someone who knows what the hell they're doing, it's going to make a difference. It's like putting me in a Indy car. You put me in it, I'm not going to know what to do. I can maybe drive around the track based on what I know driving day to day, but unless you put Mario Andretti or Jeff Gordon or one of those guys in one of those cars, they're not really going to get its full potential. And that's sort of the analogy I want to start with because that's quite consistent across anything we talk about AI. You're going to hear us talk about AI in the PR industry. We're going to talk about AI, how it relates to media. We're going to talk about AI in a couple other areas. And at the heart of it is AI is a tool. It's an incredible tool. It's an incredible piece of equipment. But in the right hands or the wrong hands is really where it makes the most difference.
I agree completely. And I've heard that from people in other industries too, such as some of our clients who are in software development have said the exact same thing. In the hands of somebody who knows what they're doing, it can help you develop faster. It can get through all the tedious stuff. But in the hands of somebody who doesn't, it can be dangerous. So I think we hear so much about AI now. And the question we hear a lot is, oh, is AI going to take away fill in the blank job? And I think the answer is that you're asking the wrong question. It's like, how is AI going to change what we do? It might take away some jobs. It might create new jobs. It's here, it's happening. And so really it's how do you deal with it? And I think that's what we want to talk about today is how do we deal with this as PR professionals? What are the things we want to start looking at? I know I've used it a little bit. I used it a year ago to try to help me draft. I think it was a press release, and it spit out something that maybe a high school kid would have written. And I was like, I'm not even going to really bother with this very much because I can, it wasn't a draft that I even really wanted to use in too many revisions. And I used it again about a month ago. And wow, I mean, just from last year to this year, it's learned. The high school kid
It's
has
incredible.
graduated. The high school kid has a master's degree now. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So it's a good opportunity to use it for a draft to help you get your thoughts
Hmm.
together, to spruce up a paragraph. I love it to help generate headlines, subject lines,
Oh,
things like that. Oh, that's where my
it's
brain.
great for headlines.
Mhm.
I want to dive deeper in this. I want to talk about how you and I both use it, and I think we use it different and similar based
Hmm.
on our conversations over the last year. It's great for headlines. I'm a terrible headline writer. And so, I'll write something and I'll have a terrible headline and I'll punch the headline into there with whatever I'm writing and say, come up with three good headlines. And more often than not, one of them is probably better than what I would have come up with, and it also sparks an idea for me to tweak what's there. So,
Hmm.
is that cheating? I don't think it is. I think
Mm-mm.
we develop the content, we develop the concept, um, and using it to come up with headlines, fantastic.
Hmm. Or if you have a paragraph or a word, a lot of times I'll read through my stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, I used this word so many times, and I'll say, hey, I'll use it like a thesaurus. Give me a different way to say this, or what are three other words that I can use in place of this one that makes sense. And a lot of times it comes up with something that maybe I hadn't thought of, or I said, oh yeah, I could just tweak this a little bit, and it's better. So I think it can make what we do better if we're already pretty good at what we do.
Definitely, I think two
Mhm.
examples of where it does very well is if I have a paragraph that's just too technical, and I'll punch it and say, make it less technical. And again, it's probably not the final version I would use, but it gives me an idea. Another thing it's great for is if we're writing a piece to a particular length, and if I'm like, as for I'm writing like a 1,500 word piece, I can just punch that in and say, take it down to 1,000 words. It does a pretty good job of cutting out, fluff that you don't always see as a writer,
Mhm.
which is excellent.
Yeah, I have
Um,
heard to be careful with word count though, because it hallucinates that. So make sure you're actually double checking that in a software program that is correct. So
yeah, I mean,
especially if it's a 1,500 word, you hit it, you're thrown out, kind of thing. So
yeah,
yeah.
there are gremlins that builds into the text, unintentional or intentional, and I think that's where the right person using the tool comes in.
Mhm.
You read this stuff knowing what to look for. Uh, we as PR professionals, as writers, we know what language works, what doesn't. Someone who doesn't write for a living every day is not going to catch the ghost of the machine, so to speak.
And the other thing I think is really important as a PR professional is you're responsible to protect your client's sensitive information. So when I'm typing in something and I want a paragraph, or I will take out the name of the company, the person, the product, and just put in company name, spokesperson name, product name, and that way, just in case it's loaded in somewhere, you don't want it to come up later in a competitive analysis or something. It'll protect that data, and I think that's one of the things that's also really important as a
Yeah.
PR person, to make sure you're not dumping stuff in there that could come back to hurt your client or haunt you.
So this begs the question, and I think we've already looked at the answer a little bit. If you don't have a PR firm or you don't have a built-in PR resource, can AI sort of bridge the gap?
I think sort of. I
Me
would say
too.
cautiously, yes. Again, if you don't have PR staff, do you at least have a communications person or a marketing person or a really good writer?
Yeah.
Maybe your intern is an incredible writer. And I think it's like anything else we talked about earlier. If it's in the wrong hands, you might put something out that's plagiarizing somebody else. You might put something out that's completely inaccurate. I think we have to still do our research. We have to verify things, that fact check things that it spits out, because it may or may not be accurate. Now, if you're writing, say, a new hire release or a new product launch, and the facts, and you just
Mhm.
want it to make it better and write it better, then I would say, yeah, it can definitely
Yeah.
help you. But then you have to be able to read it too and say, does this make sense?
Yeah.
And I mean,
I mean,
it's
it's
a caveat there is like, yeah, it can, but you still as a human have to know your chops at least a little bit.
exactly, I think it can bridge the gap to some extent. One of the ways I use ChatGPT or any of its competitors is usually where I'm weakest. I leaned hard into ChatGPT because I needed to write a sales email. I'm not a salesy person, so I was like, okay, put this into more of a sales sales oriented pitch, and it came back with something. It read okay to me, but if I put it in front of a salesperson, like, no, this isn't the way to do it. So there is a bit of leap of faith involved there, but it goes back to what we always say. Leave it to the experts where you can. Um, you know, I think you and I have talked about. I do a lot of. I talk to startups about, you know, when you need an agency, when you don't, sort of DIY PR. And there are elements of AI that do a pretty good job. It's like, you know, Muckrack, which is a tool that we use for media database, they launched last year AI-based pitching writer that used sort of ChatGPT as the engine. It wasn't great. It generated some pitches that didn't really do a great job. But then I went to ChatGPT, the core product, and said, okay, write a pitch for this. It did a pretty good job. Um, but again, we're going to talk a little bit about this. Journalists. We've talked about this before. Journalists have a great bullshit detector, and and they're going to recognize something written by AI. So, you know,
Yeah.
Caveat emptor. You have to be aware of your audience. You have to be aware of what you're writing. You need to know what you're writing about. You need to know who you're writing it for, and know that what they expect in terms of quality and content. And AI doesn't do that. AI doesn't take all of that into consideration. That's where this thing comes in. So I mean, again, that's just some more food for thought there.
It is, and now everyone's looking at everything as if it's been AI generated too. I think we're almost coming in with that preconceived notion that, oh yeah, they used AI to write this, whether they did or they didn't. And I have a friend, a college professor, who was lamenting about it and saying, these kids are using it, and I can catch them. She said, because
Yeah.
they're terrible writers, when they come through the door and I have to have them write something in class, and then they turn something in and it's got semicolons and sounds like it was written, she's like, I know they didn't write it, and
Yeah.
I want them to learn how to write. And so it can help you learn how to write too, but it's also got to be authentic. It's got to be you.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
I think it's going to sound weird if you let a bot write for you and they don't have your voice, they don't have your authenticity, they don't understand how you talk and speak and write, and so it's like you still have to bring yourself
Yeah.
in, or your client in, if you're working with a client and writing on their behalf. You don't want it to sound like it came from a bot. I mean, it's just, sometimes it can't do it all. It can do a lot, but
No.
it can't do it all.
And I think you raise a good point. Is everyone's radar about AI is up right now. It's at an all-time high. We're skeptics by nature. So if you see something like, oh, I wonder if AI wrote that. I mean, not, this is not business related at all, but Billy Joel put out a new song for the first time in 17 years, and it's a good song. But my initial reaction was, this sounds like someone punched into AI, write a Billy Joel song that was written in 1979. And that's kind of what it sounds like to me. And I mean, I'm not saying that AI wrote this song, but that's kind of what it sounded like. So,
Right.
everything in your brain's kind of going through an AI filter right now.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I do like when you can say to AI, "Hey, write this for an audience of X to help entice them or motivate them to be more interested to read this," that sort of thing. And we have to be careful because it's got a lot of built-in bias too. And so
Yeah.
just to kind of bring this around, when I heard we were going to be talking about this, I'm like, well, we should ask ChatGPT. What should
Yes.
we be aware of? What are the dangers? And it says it can disseminate misinformation. It can manipulate public opinion, privacy concerns, bias in decision making, loss of authenticity, job displacement, which we're seeing a lot of journalists being replaced by bots, for some of these simple articles and things like that, and ethical dilemmas. I mean, everybody's talking about the ethics of it. When should you use it? When shouldn't you use it? Is it plagiarizing something? Are we being transparent about it with our clients? And how much should we use it? That all of
Yeah.
that. Oh, you got to think about it.
We
The answers aren't easy, but it's something to
no.
think about. Yeah.
We actually had a discussion probably about a year ago, do we want to put a flag in the ground and say, look, we do not use AI? And I'm like, wait a second. Let's not be hasty here. Um, because like I said, there's a lot of stuff AI does well. And I don't want to hand on heart say to clients, we don't use AI for anything. But I can hand on heart say, everything we write is original and originated from our brains and our discussions and our
Mhm.
and the work and the research we do. But I think any agency who's saying hand on heart, we don't use AI for anything, is probably being disingenuous.
Mhm. Or they're missing an opportunity
They're
to.
missing, yes,
Because here's what ChatGPT says is good about AI. So ChatGPT says is
well,
data
they know,
driven. They've got so much data. You got to be
yeah,
careful because a lot of it's old if you're using the free version, but nonetheless,
yeah,
data driven insights on things, personalization with algorithms. They know the audience, automation of routine tasks. This is one that I think we don't have as many routine tasks as other industries, but I know like for developers and stuff and code, your basic stuff, it's great. Put
mhm,
that together.
yeah,
It can work as a chat bot or a virtual assistant, generate content, which is what we do with it occasionally, and predictive analysis, audience segmentation and targeting. I think that's something where it might know a little better how to reach a specific audience than we do. And it says crisis management. I'm not sure about that one.
yeah. Exactly. That
I
one's
think
like,
it might be
I don't know about
hallucinating a
that
little bit.
one.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. It says it can track online conversations, and you're going to have, I think, really unique software to do this, detect potential crisis or reputation threats, and provide real time alerts to the PR team. So if you think about it, I mean, we do kind of use it if we're monitoring tweets through Muckrack.
hmm,
Technically, that's AI. I mean, if we're
yeah,
monitoring social media for a client, so you can't say you don't use AI, or if you use Grammarly, just to check your spelling and your commas and things like that.
yeah.
I mean, it's definitely, if you're not using it, I would say you should be, or you will be outdated. Kind of like people who didn't want to have websites 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to use paper brochures.
Well, I mean, technology moves along. I mean, you think about when cars were coming into existence. Cities implemented a rule where a person had to walk in front of a car to keep people away. I mean, it's just it's we're going to see over the next couple of years some silly rules and some silly suggestions about how AI is used and implemented and where it is and isn't implemented, and it's we're all just kind of fumbling around in the dark here. We're all figuring out what's going to work best for our industry, what's going to work best for society, and what's going to work best in sort of day to day. I think that plays nicely into talking about, and we mentioned this at the top, what journalists are looking for in terms of how they cover AI. Because, like I said, every company is claiming to be an AI company, so you might want to know how journalists are looking at this. They're looking at it sort of two ways. One is there's a bit of built-in skepticism because of their own internal bias. There are a lot of journalists out there afraid of how this is going to impact their jobs. We're already seeing media outlets that are using AI to write the mundane. AP uses AI to write baseball and sport game recaps. That takes a job away.
Yeah.
And if you're a journalist, like, okay, I've got a bias against AI. Some of them do, some of them don't. But then the other thing is, everybody is hitting reporters hard saying, we use AI. We are an AI company. We're improving the AI infrastructure. And they get so much of that any given day because it's such a hot topic. There's a built-in skepticism. So, you know, if you're a company that's going to cry AI in a positive way, say, look, we are adjacent to AI, we are AI empowered. You've got to be able to walk the walk. I mean, that's just it, because a journalist is not going to latch on to something because you just say it.
Absolutely true. Yeah, and it is. It's such a hot, crazy topic right now. You have to go back to PR 101, is what you have newsworthy? Is it true? Is it interesting? Is it different? Has it, if it's been said a million times before by 20 other companies, they don't care. So you have to be unique, and you have to find your voice and have stories, have examples, have exciting data, something that you can share. Just saying we are in our AI isn't going to get you covered. And if people want to learn about those newsworthy tips, they can go back and watch. We have an Upright Uptake on that. So
We do. We've got a
we
lot of
do.
updates, you could say. We talk about topics other than AI and AI.
Well, and also too, I think we have one on crisis communication. And I
Yes.
think as we talk about AI and ethics and things like deepfake, which are real, and
Mhm.
people plagiarizing your stuff, or you getting accused of plagiarizing somebody else's stuff, et cetera. I think it's so important that we keep that good PR 101 always moving forward. So you're always working on your reputation. You're always being authentic. You're being transparent with your audience. You're targeting the right audience as much as you can to get your business out there, your name out there in a way that's beneficial for you, so that if something does happen, you have that foundation, that reputation that you can stand on to deal with that crisis when it happens.
With crisis comms or any communications issue, there is a step back moment where you look at the situation holistically, and AI may be a part of finding that solution or looking for answers, but it's not going to be your first. It's not going to be your only stop.
No,
So
no. And you need to have
that
that foundation, and AI can't do that for you. That is a everyday, all the time. What we did in 2023 is what we're going to reap in 2024. And what we do this year is going to help us or hurt us in the future, what we do or don't do.
yes.
Yeah.
And that's where we come in. If you have any questions or you want to know more about AI and communications or just general PR in general, drop us a line at uptakeanduprightcomms.com, name below. But we're grateful you watched this today. And Janie, thank you for your AI insights, and thanks to GPT for its
Yeah.
insights.
And being transparent. That's right. We did consult Chat GPT as well as other sources as
Yes, multiple sources. There we go. Words to live by. Thanks, Janie.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.